What's up, everybody? We're about to record a podcast for the Lauren of Love podcast. Yes, so original. If you don't know, I've had a podcast for the last 7 years, and today I'm dropping in to record a new episode all about niche. Podcasts are really cool because, you don't have to dress nice. You can literally just show up as yourself, and I don't care about what I look like, but I'm still recording this video for you guys, and I still don't care what I look like. Thank you. Anyway, enough of that. Let's drop in. This is my office, by the way. The first time you're seeing it, it's kind of blurry back here. This is my office. Really sacred ancestor altar, some other spiritual stuff. I actually sit on the floor. I know that's really crazy, but I record and coach and serve right on the floor. It just makes me feel kind of grounded. Okay, here we go. QuickTime player go. Yeah, we'll do that later. I want to attract my ideal client, but I have no idea who I'm talking to. I need to pick a niche, but I feel overwhelmed by the idea of picking one specific person to speak to for the rest of my life. How do I figure out a way to narrow myself down without feeling like I'm putting myself in a box? Okay, guys, if you've ever asked any of these questions, this is the podcast episode for you. We are going to be diving into some myth-busting medicine today, all about rewriting your relationship with niche. Maybe you've heard this word before. It's also described as niche. It is that sticky, icky thing that business coaches are teaching out there as the one most important thing you figure out to make a wildly successful business grow. And that is who you help and who you talk to. The sign outside your door. Listen, if you've ever been pressured to market yourself as somebody who solves a problem in the online space, and if it's been something that's felt really challenging for you to figure out how to solidify your message and your mission and all your multifaceted layers of medicine into one specific thing, don't you worry. This is the one episode for you. We're going to be diving into all of those myths and misconceptions that so many people are teaching out there about finding your ideal client. You ready? Let's do it. I feel really honored and excited to talk about this topic because I feel like one of my roles and responsibilities as a coach and a guide and an influencer in the online space is to essentially give you your power back. And I feel like in this world of influence and business, there are a lot of people out there saying, I have the golden solution for you. Come sign up for my program. I'll teach you all my ways and you'll make $1 million. And it's really beautiful that there are people out there that are offering the clues and the steps and the things that have worked for them in their business. But the problem with this is that if we're not careful, we can fall into this trap where we don't know how to listen to our intuition and we second guess ourselves all the time and we don't know how to make the right decision. And suddenly we're kind of in this state of fight, flight, or freeze, trying to figure out how to grow and create an online business, which essentially is supposed to be fun and exciting and beautiful. But now it's riddled with all these feelings of questioning ourselves and doubting ourselves and shutting off our intuition and feeling like we're not credible and following steps that feel rigid and forced and masculine. And so I just want to say to anybody who's ever been in that state, I really hope today's podcast episode helps you. If you're new here on the show, what's up, you guys? My name is Lauren Liz Love. I'm the creator of the Heal program, the Wild Wealthy Feminine program, and the Conscious Creator Mastermind. And I'm just really excited to break down these stories with you and to shift into a perspective where maybe after this podcast, you have more excitement, you have more clarity, you have more power in knowing how to attract your ideal client and who your ideal client even is. Now, I'm going to share a little bit of my story with you. We're going to keep this episode as consolidated as possible. You guys know I can talk for a long time on the show, so I want to keep this one brief and digestible for you so that you have tips and steps on how to move the needle forward. I will say at the start of this deep dive, but short deep dive that we're dropping into, at any point, if you're feeling like you're really resonating with the things that I'm saying, I invite you to go to laurenoflove.com/niche. Or just go to laurenoflove.com and search the shop, and you'll find a course called Know Your Niche. This is a 3-hour deep dive training that I've offered to my community and have available for replay for all of you guys. And it breaks down the methodologies and teachings of my approach to ideal client, which is something called the Power of 3. And I'll share a lot about that inside this episode, but I want to just let that be known here, that if you're feeling like what I'm sharing and what I'm saying is resonating in your body as a new way to approach your ideal client, go check out that class, Know Your Niche. You can go to laurenoflove.com, find it in the shop, or you can go directly to laurenoflove.com/niche. All right, so let's talk about it. Let's share my journey of niche and ideal client work. I'm going to say right now, I've been an entrepreneur for 9 years and I actually don't have a niche. Pretty crazy, right? I've made multiple millions of dollars. I built a really successful business. I think for me, one of my biggest realizations as an entrepreneur was that building my business was going to look differently than anybody else's way of building a business. My pathway to success was never going to be about following somebody else's ABC 1, 2, 3 step-by-step strategy. Okay, I can't believe I rhymed there, but that's not what was going to make me successful. I thought it would for a long time, and I would learn from people who said, okay, pick your niche. You got to know who you help. Your sign outside your tour. Who is your ideal client? Who do you help in the world? I remember one of the first studies as an entrepreneur, I downloaded this Knowing Your Niche kind of workbook where the questions they were asking, oh my God, it was so ridiculous. Like, what color hair does she have? And is she a mom or is she not a mom? Which sometimes can be important, but isn't always. And what kind of car does she drive? And if she walked into Starbucks, what kind of drink would she get? Now, these questions were really ridiculous to me because I wasn't a car salesman. I wasn't working with moms or not moms, right? I wasn't really focused in that area. And I was not interested in creating coffee lattes for my ideal client. But for some reason, this was one of the first moments of my business where I recognized this doesn't feel good and therefore I'm not going to do it. And I want to speak to that for a minute because for a lot of people who are struggling with learning how to identify their niche or know their niche, they're not listening to their intuition and they're listening to what they're learning from other experts. What you learn from other experts is only good for you if it feels good for you. If you're applying methodologies or practices from any type of business coach and in the back of your head and the bottom of your gut, you're kind of like, oh, this doesn't feel right, it's not going to be a successful strategy for you. So I say that now because it's really important as we dive in that, even though I'm sharing with you, hey, do things this way, it may not all land. And your job as a creative and as somebody who's channeling in a big vision is to really understand, hey, what feels good for me? What is a yes in my body? And what is a no? And let that intuitive awareness guide you in your decision-making process. When it came to niche, it did not feel good to me to pick and stick with one type of ideal client. I want to get this out of the way right now and just say that the world of online marketing is full of a lot of bro marketing tactics, masculine energy, strategy. And while it's good to have strategy and it's an important part of creating safe space as an entrepreneur, I think sometimes all of that rigidity and control and specificity strips away the spiritual creative calling that we as entrepreneurs have to just make a difference in the world doing what we love. Look, the truth of the matter is, if you're listening to this episode, You want to create a successful business doing what you love and helping old versions of you. Now, in order to do that, you have to remember that this is a lifelong path of embracing your creativity and giving back in these karmic ways by creating things that the old you really needed. Now, the trick to this is knowing that there are so many different old versions of you. I can think back in the last 6 months of my life and come up with 17 different old versions of me that could have probably used my help today, right? When you're healing and when you're growing and when you're building a business that's rooted in spirituality, personal development, maybe you have certain modalities that you're really passionate in the holistic wellness space or in breath work or yoga or Reiki or plant medicine, you have to remember that this work that you're doing is really karmic and it's really sacred and it needs life force. It doesn't need structure like, hey, what college major are you picking? Or what is your career title? This business you're building is so much more dimensional than that because it's a reflection of you. You are a multi-dimensional person. So this idea that you have to pick one type of ideal client and always serve that person and never waver or never stray, to me, that doesn't feel good. When I look at my 9 years of entrepreneurship, I can tell you right now, I never picked a niche. I am not a niche. I am a multi-dimensional being and I shift and I grow and I change and I expand and I get new ideas all the time and I create new things from that inspirational place. I need the safe space in my business to allow myself the permission to say, hey, if I wake up tomorrow and I want to create a wellness program, I can do that. And if I wake up 3 years from now and I want to run a spiritual retreat, I can do that. Why? Because I am the medicine holder. I am the person who's carrying this mission. It's not the problem I solve that is interesting to people. Everybody out there has problems to solve. What's interesting to people and what makes me unique is my energetic hold, my expression, my values, my personality, my creativity, my way of sharing and expressing myself. That uniqueness, that diversity, that dimensionality, that depth, that's what allows people to continue to come back and buy multiple things from you over and over and over again. So let's just get rid of this old storyline once and for all and say that if you're out there and you have a multi-dimensional, multi-passionate way of life and you want to create offerings that serve a wide variety of people, congratulations, you're in the right place to build a strong soul-led legacy. You're not here to be a problem solver. You are here to be somebody who leads people home to themselves. And that journey is multidimensional and complex. So your business is going to look that way as well. Now, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. But Lauren, what problem do I solve? And what do I put in my Instagram bio? And how do I actually feel inspired to create content? If I'm being too vague, I feel like I'm not being specific enough. I've heard this story before. I've heard this myth before. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a niche problem. This is a creative expression problem. Sometimes when we're building a business, we can experience this sort of pigeonholed energy where maybe you have picked a niche in the past and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm putting myself into a box. I'm only talking about one thing. And now all of a sudden you're not inspired. You have nothing to say. You have no content to share. You're feeling like you want to burn it all down because it feels too restrictive, right? This is an example of where creative limitation is kind of indicating to you this is maybe not the right way to grow your business. But on the other hand, there's this other side of the spectrum where if we are too vague and we are too broad and we are too all over the place, we feel overwhelmed at the possibilities of creation and we don't know how to create in that medium place where we're specific, but we're not too specific, where it's like not limiting us, right? And we are broad, but we're not so broad that we have no idea what we do. The answer to this is my method called the Power of 3. Now, this is where I'm going to start talking to you guys a little bit about those trainings inside of the Know Your Niche Masterclass. I want to share some of that with you guys here in this episode for free, and to just say, if this is something that's really calling you, please go check that out. The Know Your Niche Masterclass is amazing. It's available on laurenoflove.com, and it's a really powerful tool, right? Because when you're sinking into wanting to help old versions of you, and you know there's so many different ones, and maybe you're that type of person where, yeah, you have multi passions, right? You're a home decor designer, you're an artist, you're a sound healer, you love to create videos, you also want to be a coach, you want to do retreats, right? You're building a whole big, beautiful legacy. So we have to be able to say there needs to be some structure, or else we're going to fly off the handle and go crazy. And for me, that's asking two really important questions with lists of 3 following each of those questions. Number 1, asking the question, what are the 3 topics I love to talk about? For me, that's entrepreneurship, spirituality, and self-healing. And I've stuck to those 3 topics over and over and over again in my journey, no matter what I do in the world, whether it's my Know Your Niche class, my Heal Foundations program, or even my Chronic Freedom course, or my Wild Wealthy Feminine group coaching container. I'm always somewhere in here. I'm always talking about one of my 3 topics. This is a great way to narrow down specificity without feeling like you're too close to the edges of control and you have nothing to really give you flexibility on, right? Having 3 topics gives you a lot of breath. The second question I ask are, who are the 3 old versions of me underneath those topics that really needed my help? Maybe it was the version of me that was starting her spiritual path and had no idea what to do. Maybe it was the version of me that was calling on spirituality as a way to actually heal chronic illness and trauma. Maybe the old version of me that I'm trying to help under that bracket of spirituality was the version of me that knew she wanted to start facilitating spiritual work. When I take those 3 topics and I follow it up by asking that question, who are the 3 old versions of me underneath these pieces, I start to get some incredible ideas for content creation, for marketing, for messaging, for group coaching containers, for digital courses, for freebies, for content, you name it. I'm an endless source of inspiration. You want more on that study? I invite you to go check out that course, laurenoflove.com/niche. But let's continue on this conversation where we're myth busting a little bit. Just to give you a recap in this dialogue, first, we've identified the myth that you need to pick one type of person, and I've given you the solution. Hopefully you find it really helpful for allowing yourself to talk to a few different types of people. The next myth I want to break down is the idea that you need to solve a problem. You've heard me mention this before. I'm going to be clear again, just in the paradigms we're breaking here, if we're going to get a little bit woo. Obviously, in that first example, we're breaking the paradigm of belief that says you are defined by the one thing you do, right? And we see that in our day-to-day world reality where people say, oh, what do you do for a living? What's your title? What's your job? We're breaking that paradigm here with the business that we're building, and we're giving ourselves permission to step into a new reality where we're dimensional and creative, and we can serve people in a wide variety of ways with a wide variety of gifts that we have. The second way we're breaking paradigm in this spiritual approach to entrepreneurship, which, hey, guess what? If you're here, you've signed up for that path. We're recognizing that we are no longer defining our worth by how good we are at solving problems. For me, I had a really big realization around this in my entrepreneurial path where I was about 5 years into my business. I was burnt out, exhausted, feeling really unfulfilled, and so tired of feeling like nothing I ever did was good enough. I was making $700,000 a year at the time, and one of my employees turned to me and said, Lauren, I just have a question. Who would you be if you didn't have a problem to solve? You're always looking for problems. Who would you be? And it was this big moment where I realized, oh my God, this entire entrepreneurial path, I've been just hyper vigilantly trying to find problems to fix. My Instagram's not big enough. We're not making enough money. That course isn't good enough. Those graphics need to be fixed. That customer service email didn't get a response. I was always looking for the thing to complain about. And that's when I realized that I was still operating in this old belief that my worthiness was determined and valued and quantified by how good I was at fixing something. When we're in the online space, we're told this because guess what? We're operating in a paradigm that was created by men in a masculine world. Masculine energy is all about solving problems. But in today's era of influence and change, the feminine is really rising. And this is really more of an approach of, I don't want to invest in somebody who solves a problem. I want to invest in somebody whose energy I can learn and study and become inspired by and change my life with. I want those codes that that person has. Whether you're in the world of relationships or health and wellness or spirituality or all of those things, when you're in the online space and people are feeling your frequency, they are not investing in you because you have a solution. There are tons of solutions out there. They're investing in you because of the energetic hold that you carry, the frequencies that you express, the values that you harness, the way you carry yourself. There is something about your energy that they want to receive and have too. This is the era of influence. And this is what's so cool about this world now, where we abandon this old way of niche, because now you can create change just by being yourself and by walking people through processes and experiences that you've walked and experienced yourself. This is how we create change and give back. So I invite you to have that perspective that instead of being a problem solver, help people grow, help people feel things, help people awaken to certain frequencies in their life and be a vessel and a conduit for those processes. Share your medicine in the world by how you speak, by the energy you carry when you press record, with the stories you tell on your social media platforms, with the air of vulnerability that you carry in everything you do, with the compassion, with the gentleness, with the empowerment, with the play. I think it would be really great if more entrepreneurs could spend more time figuring out who they were instead of figuring out who they help. Who you are and what you stand for and what you value and what's important to you is way more important than any sign outside of your door. At the end of the day, that sign outside of your door can change, but your values will always stay the same. And if you're wanting to build a community that speaks to you, that trusts you, that follows your work, that is inspired by what you offer, you have to remember that you are not a fixer. You are a space of transformation for others. So keep that in mind. So we don't have to pick one person to help, and we certainly don't need to walk around the world of social media solving a problem. The third and final myth I want to bust when it comes to niche and the journey of creating a massive impact is the idea that you are somebody who needs to be an expert in what you do. I think this is so far from the truth. And along my journey, what I've come to realize with niche is that when you're deciding that you're going to stand for something and have a strong point of view and anchor into firm perspectives, all of a sudden we have this feeling of, oh my God, am I credible? Am I actually good enough to teach these things? I struggle with X, Y, and Z, so how can I possibly help somebody who is going through very similar things? I want to turn the table around right now to just recognize a very powerful quote I read in a really great book, Boundary Boss. If you've ever read it, you know it's amazing. And if you haven't, I highly suggest you do. It's on my suggested book read list. In that book, she refers to a quote from some other author who says that we teach the things that we are most needing to learn. And I really love this approach. And I think if we can just humble ourselves into this perspective that when you are learning and you are growing on a path, you are going to simply be sharing the things that you know to the people who are walking just a few steps behind you. But you're still walking too. You're still finding your way. You're still navigating the waters. You're still going through the challenge of figuring it out. For me, credibility is about recognizing that I've dedicated my life to learning about something. When it comes to mental health, wellness, happiness, abundance, prosperity, joy, freedom, peace, spiritual connection, these are not things that I ultimately arrived at, put my feet up on a table and said, I'm here now. These are studies that I will be having for the rest of my life. And if you're a really good teacher out there, you'll recognize that your willingness to accept that fact, to humble yourself in that, is actually what creates safe space for you to create massive change in the world. To say, hey, I'm a student just like you. And yeah, maybe you're in high school and I'm getting my PhD, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to bring you along with me. I'm going to share what I've learned as quickly as I can in a way that feels authentic and safe and in alignment. But guess what? I'm still learning things. So all of that to say, like, if you're a relationship coach, you're going to have big relationship challenges. If you're meant to be a health and wellness expert, you're going to have really big initiations into understanding how to do that. If you're an abundance and manifestation teacher, you bet your butt you've probably been through some hard times financially. These are all aspects of initiation. And those things will happen in the middle of your business journey. I've had things happen to me 6 months ago that one version of me could look at and go, oh yeah, you're so not credible. You're a fraud. You're not, worthy of being a teacher. Look at you. You're still struggling. But the other version of me is like, oh, okay, here's a new deepening of what I'm meant to teach. Here's a new angle of learning that I haven't yet experienced. This is going to make me a better guide. So I want to invite you into that perspective too, that at the end of the day, this is not about being an expert. This is not about being, the perfect, skilled facilitator. You have the ability to share your gifts and your medicine at any stage of your journey. And one thing I teach in that Know Your Niche course is how to navigate the difference between being considered an expert and being a documented student, because along my journey, I've recognized there are seasons of my life path where one minute I'm teaching and the other minute I'm documenting my own process and what I'm learning and growing through. And I think that allows us to really feel safe in that credibility as well. Finally, I just want to add one point that's kind of coming up around this idea of niche, this conversation that we're having. It feels so alive, it feels so beautiful, and it feels so exciting. And I just want to piggyback on all of this to talk about the concept of modalities. In this fourth and final point about myth, you do not need to lead with your modalities. I want that to be so clear. If you're a breathwork facilitator, that's great. You don't need to put that in your Instagram bio if you don't want to. If you're an NLP coach, if you're a trained hypnotherapist, if you're a Reiki facilitator, if you're a plant medicine facilitator, there's a difference for all of us in knowing what is meant to be at the front of our marketing and what's actually just part of our study to advance our skills in facilitation. For me, yeah, I facilitate breathwork, I facilitate sound healing, I'm NLP certified, I've gone to coaching school. Do I lead with any of those modalities? No. I've designed my own way of working in the world with courses, master classes, group coaching containers, masterminds, retreats. I offer all of these different things that have space for me to express myself in those different ways of modality. But I never felt called to leverage myself as the NLP expert or the yogi or the breathwork facilitator. I'm putting quotes in the air if you can't see me on video. But the point is, these are aspects of your knowledge and your skill set, and we have to deprogram that belief from our upbringing that says, oh, like, now that's your title. Now that's how you brand yourself. Not necessarily. For more on that, if you're really curious, go into the niche course. That will really be helpful in helping you identify how to really sink into your ideal client, know exactly who they are, and how to create a plethora of content from this vision of the power of 3. Remember, you're not here to help one type of person. You are not here to do one type of thing. You are a multi-dimensional being, and your work is going to be that way as well. So for more, in closing, you can go to laurenoflove.com/niche. That's NICHE. Or just go to laurenoflove.com and check out the shop. You'll find that course right in the business section. And I know it will serve you so deeply and help you guys. And I hope this podcast episode today also served you well. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. And finally, thanks for doing the work you do in the world. Really, seriously, the world needs your medicine. And thank you for not giving up and for continuously showing up to know that there's a fire in your heart to do something big and to listen to that soul's knowing. That is everything in this world. Stand firm in that sovereignty. Show up to create massive change. Be yourself in the online space and create a legacy that you truly love, helping the old version of you move closer to the goals that she has. That's it. That's what this is about. I hope you found inspiration today in this episode, and I hope it gave you radical permission to do business your way on your own terms. For more, you can go to laurenoflove.com, and I'll see you on another episode very soon. Thanks for listening. Yeah, I'm pretty good.